Morning coffee and the research. Good morning, everybody. Mitch here. It is Sunday morning at 6:11. I have not even finished my coffee yet, and I'm going to show you guys. I have to brew it downstairs so I don't wake the kids up, so I make it right here, and then I got so I'm at the desk, and yesterday was busy, so it's Sunday morning. This is the dedication to getting videos out, getting the content out to you guys, because I'm trying to keep the dialogue going. And last week I said that I would put out a video on vacant homes in Canada, because this is something that a couple people have mentioned to me was a point of interest. I've had a couple of sort of friends and colleagues bring this up as something that they think might be a factor in our housing crisis. How many homes are sitting vacant? And so I wanted to just take a bit of a dive into it. Now, what I'll tell you is that it seemed that I could have kept going deeper and deeper on this to really understand how the research surrounding this topic was accumulated and sorted or interpreted. But at a glance, what it appears like is that there's sort of two key issues when it comes to this topic. Is that one, there was a report put out a year ago that had some data in it that was probably interpreted incorrectly based off old census data, and this was sort of the big splash that made everybody think that we might have 8 to 9% vacant homes in Canada. And second, in my research for this, it got me on to, I think, arguably an even more interesting topic, which is what is Canada and our current government's intent, not only with the housing market, but really with all things to do with our sovereign interest, Canada as a country. Where how is it looking out for its people, and where do its interests actually lie? So data interpretation is a big theme all of this year, because everybody knows as we're coming towards the end of this thing that we're in, there's been a lot of really debate and dispute over data interpretation over the last year regarding all kinds of scientific things and whatnot. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly dive into, I'm going to basically, so I think I'm probably in for, I'm going to call it somewhere between 2 and 3 hours of research on this, which is as much as I can muster up as a full-time Peterborough realtor with 3 young kids. So if anybody knows more, has already gone deeper, or cares to go deeper, feel free to chime in. But hey, let's I'm going to rip into a few of these slides that I have got. Okay, so first off, let's talk about authorship. So the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development is the body that first put out a report stating that there was approximately 1.6 million vacant homes in Canada, which would represent somewhere between 8 and 9%. And that data, or that interpretation of what was 2016 census data, basically got splashed into a whole bunch of other articles. And now what we found out afterwards, as several other journalists and researchers sort of went in and dismantled these claims, was that the data in that report was misinterpreted. So during the census, 2016 census, what was considered or classified as a vacant home was a very broad spectrum, included vacation rental properties, people with student rentals. Students were actually living in the home, but it wasn't listed as their primary residence. They were listed as living somewhere else. People who had their home vacant to list it for sale, People who were commuting for work had 2 homes. It sounds like vacation rental properties, and there's basically, it sounds like for a couple major cities, they went ahead and really traced this all back down. There's a National Post article, and it sounds like the vacancy rate was actually closer to 2, even below 2%, which sounds like what the vacancy rate as we recognize it, as I would think it is right now. Even arguably, it could be sub 1%. It feels like sometimes right now with the way that the rental market crisis is going on in every city that I know of. So what we have here is that someone came in, interpreted this census data incorrectly by the sounds of it. The vacancy rate is actually much lower. There are still some vacant homes, but it sounds like it's not just investors buying them up and hoarding them. And there's a lot of people arguing, hey, we can't build enough new homes. That's not the problem. There's enough vacant homes out there right now to solve the housing crisis. Because if we did convert all these vacation properties, second properties owned by people into dwellings, yeah, that would help. It would help in theory, but it's not really a practical way of looking at it, because it's not a realistic option. To say, hey, we've got a housing crisis. Everybody has got to get rid of their cottage to provide more housing stock. It's just not really a solution that everybody's going to consent to. So there's no point in speculating that that's the way out of this thing. And people stating, well, if we get rid of those homes, the vacant ones, it's enough to provide. So building's not an option, or building is not the way out of this, because it's just going to provide, more people are going to speculate and buy more of these vacant homes. But what I want to say is, if the vacant homes is always going to remain a percentage, and it's somewhat stable, whether it is whether it is as high as 8% or whether it's as low as 2%, if it's going to remain that way, no matter what, if we grow the housing stock in some of the large amounts of numbers that the government's been talking about, as long as the amount of vacancies just stays as the same percentage, we're still going to win. We're still going to get ahead with growing the housing stock overall, and there's going to be more supply. Now, one other point. So when it comes to vacant housing, it sounds like we're not as far out on this as what we thought. It doesn't seem to be a major contributing factor, not like most people thought it was. Now, in a tight housing market like this, no vacant homes are good. I don't think we can ever totally control it. And one note on that, from I believe it's a Better Dwelling article. It was one of the same ones that reinterpreted, that sort of regurgitated some of this faulty data, it seems like. But it sounds like the UK has an extremely low vacancy rate, and it's because they have different laws and taxation on vacant homes, higher tax structures. So it sounds like something that our government could do better of, nonetheless, deterring vacancies, because even if the data in the reports that were released last year was wrong, sounds like other places, even if their data was interpreted wrong just the same, they still have lower rates. So there's something to be said for that. So other places, the UK, they've been struggling with a housing crisis for decades as well, just like we talked about California the other week. And I think that there still could be a better job done on that, but I don't think it's a main contributor. One thing I wanted to bring up, though, is a very interesting topic that came up in as a link, a reference in one of these articles I read, was this book right here, Willful Blindness by Sam Cooper. It just came out last year. And basically, here's the subtitle: How a Network of Narcos, Tycoons, and Chinese Communist Party Agents Infiltrated the West. Powerful title. And I've just skimmed through. I've listened to a podcast by Sam Cooper since that was about this exact topic, basically about his book and his research. And I've sort of just been diving into different chapters to grab snippets. And wow, that's all I can say. I'll probably do a little piece on this book in the weeks coming as I get a little bit deeper into it. But essentially, willful blindness. It's just talking about the government's willingness to turn a blind eye to really some powerful stuff. International drug money being filtered through. First of all, drugs being sold on Canadian soil, really deteriorating our working class, and the money being cycled back into, in a roundabout way, back into real estate. So to me, that's a story I'm very interested in. Just to know why would our government know fully about this stuff going on and sort of turning a blind eye? I understand that there's some very powerful forces at play here, and that the average RCMP investigator is not going to want to intervene on some of these, really powerful forces and people, and put their own family's life at stakes. I'm surprised that Sam Cooper, the author of this book, was willing to do so. I don't know if he's hiding away in a vault somewhere, but I would say he's exposed some pretty intense storylines here. So I would check this book out for anybody who's interested in some stories and some current riffs about what's going on with our housing market and our politics, because it's all part and parcel. Why has the government let it get to this point, and what is their intentions going forward, not only with housing, but with all things to do with our Canadian sovereignty, because arguably we're sort of selling away pieces of Canada as we go here, month by month. We're losing our ability to provide the same future for, for my young kids right now, and a lot of people's kids. It's not going to look the same as what we had growing up in terms of how do you survive in this environment. So anyways, that's it for this week, guys. I won't ramble anymore. Thanks for tuning in. I've appreciated the dialogue. You guys know I'm actually listening to the feedback. I get a lot of inbox messages, talk to a lot of people on the phone about what I talk about in these videos. So even though the comment section can be a little bit slow sometimes, I am making these videos just to talk to you guys, making them just to have the conversation, and whatever topics you want to hear about, let me know. I got a couple hours every week marked out to do some research on this market and our situation, and I'm happy to just spend that time figuring out whatever you guys want to know about. So have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll catch you next week.